SynthStories starts right now.
Am I the a-hole for calling my sister-in-law a mistress in front of everyone after she said I deserve paternity? English second language. My brother had extramarital affair and he divorced my sister-in-law and got married to my current sister-in-law, mistress. He basically ditched his wife and got married to this stupid woman, and our family is trying to accept her because of my brother. My sister-in-law on this Sunday on our family gathering asked my wife to prove that our daughter is actually mine. We are both browns, all of us, and I am on the more fair side, but my daughter came out as completely brown. She said to my wife that it would be nice if she takes paternity test to prove it to our family that the child is mine. She said that my daughter could have inherited me and had to be a little fair as in skin. My wife couldn't say anything because of sudden shock, but I told her that my wife doesn't need to prove anything and she's not gonna be proving herself. She said that it's best that I find out about my heritage than after. I said she's a mistress, so she is maybe experienced or inexperienced. My mom pulled me aside and she asked me why would I say that out loud in front of everyone. I said with my loud voice that a second-rate mistress is questioning my wife and she should not be having an affair with married men. I left with my wife and my brother asked me and my wife to apologize to his wife. I said I will never apologize to anyone and I won't let my wife to do so even if she wants to. He said he didn't want to stay with someone, his ex, because of arranged marriage, and I replied with that I don't care, his wife is still a mistress and a stupid mistress to ask other women for paternity. Am I asshole? My family is broken. In fact, we broke off because of that witch mistress.
Am I the a-hole because I'm not mad that mom ruined my dad's wedding and told everyone at it that him and his wife are cheaters? My parents had a really bad divorce 2 years ago because dad cheated on mom. Me, 16 male, and my brother, 14 male, and sister, 13 female, found out about it because we got dropped back home early after a night at a relative's house and we could hear mom yelling at dad about it before we went inside. The fight stopped when they realized we got home, but we heard mom say dad cheated. Dad had to sit us down and tell us a few days later that he was dating someone else and she was pregnant. I asked dad if he cheated and he said it was complicated and nothing for us to worry about. We don't really like dad after doing that, and we don't like his wife either. She was a friend of mom's at work and that's why mom is mad at her too. She pretended they were friends while she was screwing dad behind mom's back. She cheated on her daughters, 7, dad as well, and he dropped the 2 of them because of it. And I know it might sound like dad's her daughter's bio father, but he's not. Someone else might be her bio dad, but dad can't be. They're different races. My dad and his wife got married in June. We were forced to be there even though we didn't want to be. It was awkward watching him marry the person he cheated on mom with. Then mom interrupted the wedding and started yelling at the 2 of them and calling out them for cheating, and she said they were sick for making me and my siblings watch it. She called out dad's wife for pretending to be her friend and then breaking up her marriage and our family and making us watch. It really pissed my dad and his wife off because her daughter was there and heard everything. When they saw me and my siblings go to mom, it bothered them even more. Dad made us sit down and then he kicked mom out and threatened to call the police. After the reception started, dad asked us why we went to mom and we told him we did it because she's our mom. He said she was wrong and ruined his wedding. My sister said she didn't care and he deserved it. My dad's wife said her daughter didn't deserve to be caught up in mom's temper tantrum, her words, and I shrugged. I don't know what my siblings did though. But dad's wife told us to leave. I called mom and she picked us up and we haven't been to dad's much since. Dad wanted us to come over more, but he wanted us to be mad at mom and we weren't. He tried to explain why she was wrong, but I don't think any of us cared. To us it was sucks to be you, but we didn't want to be at the wedding anyway. Dad went all serious talk on us and he was like, you can't excuse people doing bad things and ruining things for others, and he said she never should have let us see that stuff. I said he never should have cheated and made us experience that either, but he did. I said he never should have made a baby with someone else while married to mom, but he did that too. My dad wanted to punish me for that, but he didn't want me in the house either if I wished away my half-sibling. It's probably been 9 or 10 weeks since we went to dad's house last, and when he comes to see us or text, he expects us to be mad at mom now, and we're not. He said we should be mad at both and not just him. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for telling my mom to report her pregnancy to CPS instead of trying to make it my problem and then reporting it myself? My mom and my dad broke up when I, 17, was a baby. My mom got married when I was 2 and she had my half-brother when I was 3. I lived with my parents half the time each until I was 6, and that's when my dad died. I lived with my mom until I was 10 because that's when CPS got heavily involved. My half-brother has issues. I don't know what those issues are. He's just really violent even all the way as a young kid. He was like that everywhere, choking, punching, trying to stab people, all kinds of stuff. When I was 10, he tried really hard to push one of his toy cars down my throat and he was grabbing my neck and squeezing. He left marks. I ended up hitting him really hard to get him off me and he got hurt too. My paternal grandparents offered to take me when CPS said it wasn't safe to continue like it was. My half-brother had lots of trouble at school too, and he had some child welfare person who spoke to him once a month at the time. I don't think they were CPS, but maybe they were. My mom didn't agree with me living somewhere else. But it was either me or my half-brother, and his dad wanted him with them, so my mom had to give up the fight eventually. CPS and the judge in jail said it was not safe for me or any child while my half-brother was there. I had a good life with my grandparents and I was happier with them anyway. I got to go to a different school in another district, which was good for me because I didn't have to hear about my half-brother hurting other kids or hurting teachers. There was some shit with my dad and my mom's husband, so he didn't like me very much. Then I hated being forced to play with my half-brother because he attacked me every time, but mom said we needed to have each other's backs like brothers do. I saw my mom a handful of times since I was 10. She's allowed to visit, but only alone and only with permission and asking ahead of time. But she doesn't like doing that. She thinks she should be able to see me and I should be allowed to go to her house anytime. It doesn't matter that I want nothing to do with her house. Last month my mom sent a text showing she's like really pregnant and she told me we need to talk because she's worried about how they'll manage and I'll need to help. I told her to report her pregnancy to CPS instead of trying to make it my problem. She texted me a bunch of times back with stuff like, "This is your half-sister and she needs you, and I'm your mom and I need you." She kept saying call me and stuff and I ignored her. I knew she was probably all kinds of pissed, but I still won't go back even though I'm almost 18. When I didn't respond, she said my half-sister would go into the system because her husband's parents are too old to take her and my half-brother can't be put somewhere he could be abused and mishandled because of his aggression. My mom's parents died last year, so they can't take the baby either when she's born. After 2 weeks of her pushing back on my answer, I called and told CPS about the pregnancy, and I guess they went to my mom about it because she freaked out and started texting more. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for not telling my son that his brother's grandpa is his dad? Throwaway for obvious reasons and names are changed. I, 30 female, have 2 sons, Evan, 10 male, and Liam, 5 male. Evan's dad is Mark, 35 male. Liam's dad is Steve, 56 male, who happens to be Mark's father. Yes. My ex-husband's dad. We were young when Mark and I got married and we had Evan when I was 20. We ended up divorcing due to DV and I rarely see Mark now. Steve, however, always wanted to be a part of his grandson's life and was a heavily involved grandfather. 6 years ago, Steve and I were hanging out, we were both sad and one thing led to another and we slept together. We never stopped sleeping together. We were both lonely. His marriage to Mark's mom, my ex-mother-in-law, wasn't the best, and I never wanted to bring another man into Evan's life. Then I got pregnant with Steve. He still continued to be in our lives and a good grandfather to Evan and a good father to Liam. We live nearby and see him almost daily. Liam is now getting to an age where he says little offhand things like our family has a mom and Liam's grandpa but no dad. Or things of the sort. The other day he just asked me if he had a dad. I don't know how to tell him that his brother's grandpa is his dad or how to tell the family. This would blow up my entire reputation and life and Mark's family. We live in a very religious area and I already get judgment for getting pregnant again, and I won't say who the father is. Most speculate I signed an NDA because of my profession or it's a married man. How do I tell my son, and the world, that my son's grandpa is my other son's dad? Edit for context, so Steve's marriage to my ex-mother-in-law is really strange. She never really liked him, but they both came from families that basically made them get married after getting pregnant with Mark's older sister. When she had Mark, she basically replaced Steve with him. This is part of what made my marriage to Mark truly awful. My ex Emil and Mark are most certainly enmeshed, and she made it her mission to make my life hell from the day he engaged. My wedding night is still one of the most painful memories of my life, largely in part because of the stunts she pulled and the way he didn't care. It doesn't excuse me not respecting her marriage to Steve, though. Steve and ex-mother-in-law haven't shared a bedroom in decades, and they act like estranged roommates. Steve said he would move away with me if I asked him to, but he has deep roots here. My ex-mother-in-law only sees Evan for Easter and Christmas photos. I guess as bad as this is, Steve and I bonded over how cruel and vindictive ex-mother-in-law and how stubborn Mark is. Steve tried to get us to go to couples counseling, and mother-in-law wasn't having it. Her sweet baby didn't need therapy. He tried to have us talk it out as a family, but mother-in-law always took Mark's side no matter how ridiculous things were. To this day, the only time I've seen Steve truly upset was when I gave birth to Evan and they found out how they treated me during labor. I know I made a very bad choice, but I need help with navigating it without making things worse. I don't have a big support system, and this podcast feels like family sometimes. Edit 2. I have a therapy appointment scheduled in 2 hours, and from there I'll be having a conversation with Steve. I'll update tonight or tomorrow. I understand I fucked up and I've been racked with guilt, regret, and shame for the past 5 years. I know the choices I made were terrible and I suck for it. I've spent years hating myself for it, so I understand all the comments calling me everything under the sun. Don't think I don't know I fucked up. This post was more about what to do now. I can't unbirth my child. I can't unfuck Steve. I can't do shit. All I can do is move forward, so maybe comment advice rather than telling me what I tell myself all the time. I try hard to not fall in depression for the sake of my children. I do everything for my kids and I love them dearly. Just wanted help with what to do.
My, female 50, daughter-in-law, 24 female, gave birth and doesn't seem to want a relationship with me, making it difficult to have a relationship with my son, 31 male, and new granddaughter. Hello Reddit, too long didn't read. I'm looking for advice on how to build a relationship with my daughter-in-law and get over the rift she's causing since giving birth. My son, D, 31, has been married to my daughter-in-law, B, 24, since September of 2020. Due to the pandemic, I never really got to know her because they only dated for about a year before they got married, and I didn't know about her until they had dated for about 6 months. I love my son very much, but I feel like our relationship has been rocky since they get married. He has a daughter from a previous relationship who is 10, and since they got together I haven't had the same relationship with her. I know this is partially because he moved out of my house, very suddenly without really saying anything, I may add, and I no longer get her on his weekends. I try to get them to bring her to visit when they have her, but usually I only see her once a month or so, and lately it has felt like she has been more distant when she visits. I think this is because B says negative things about me around her, and I find that unfair. They just had a baby at the end of January. She was induced due to preeclampsia and in labor for 3 days before having a C-section. I had been in an accident a few weeks prior and don't have a vehicle, and my son refused to pick me up to be there for the labor at all or to see the baby in the hospital, but her parents got to see the baby and were in the parking lot the entire time. I called him while she was in labor a few times, but on the second day after her water broke I called him and heard her snap at him to get off the phone, and he refused to accept any calls after that. I just wanted to know that the 3 of them were okay though. She was in the hospital 2 days after the C-section, and they wouldn't stop to visit me on their way home after the birth because she was hurting, even though she had painkillers she could have taken and she didn't feel right, according to my son. This is when I became concerned she had PPD. My daughter ended up picking up her prescriptions and some groceries for them and got to see the baby that night. Her and B have a relationship that is apparently pretty good. I was supposed to visit a couple days after they got home, but she ended up insisting something was wrong and went back to the doctor, who apparently sent her to the hospital. My son told me they diagnosed her with postpartum preeclampsia, but I was pretty certain that that was only something that happened during pregnancy and went away after birth, so I was pretty sure he was confused. The day after they admitted her again, 5 days after the baby being born with everyone meeting her but me, was my birthday. I called her around 8 that morning to see what was really going on, but she didn't answer. A while later my son called me and wished me a happy birthday and asked why I had called B. I admit I snapped at him and said she should be returning my call, because I called her. I hung up on him and maybe 5 minutes later she called me. I told her she should have called me and that I wanted to hear her voice and hear from her what was going on since my son gets confused. I then asked her if this was a mental or physical issue, and she went silent before saying physical. I asked if she was sure, and she got kind of snippy and said they had padding on her bed because she was a seizure risk and she couldn't be alone with her newborn, so she was pretty sure. I didn't comment on her tone because I was sure she was stressed. She was released her the next day, and they came and visited me while I was at my daughter's watching her 2 kids on their way home so I could see the baby. I offered her some pillows to sit on. My son said she basically gave birth both ways. Even though I knew this wasn't true, I wondered if she had some soreness that made him think this, and she refused my hospitality, saying she was fine and felt pretty good. 2 weeks later my son picked me up and brought me to their home to visit. I stayed for a few hours, and she didn't really make any effort to talk to me. She was just quiet and sat on the couch. When my son took me home I asked why she was so unhospitable, and he said I had been rude while she was in the hospital. That she shouldn't have had to call me, and that I shouldn't have asked if it was a mental or physical problem because he had already told me it was physical. He also said I shouldn't have posted anything on Facebook before her about the baby being born, and that I was rude when he called to make me take it down. She doesn't post on social media very often, so I didn't think it would be a big deal. He hasn't picked me up to see the baby because he says he needs to be there to help with the baby, and they won't bring the baby to me because he says the baby isn't allowed in my house. I told my son I'm planning to quit my job to babysit for them, but I haven't even gotten her return to work date and she hasn't once thanked me for doing it. Overall, I feel like she's holding on to some very petty things and is using them to keep me from my son and granddaughters. I want a relationship with her, but I am missing some critical bonding time with the baby and I am going to struggle to forgive her for it. Especially over petty nonsense she won't even bring up to talk to me. I'm really wanting to send a text and lay all my feelings out for her and just hash it out, but I understand there are probably cultural differences at play with all of this too, so I could use some advice on what to say.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize for texting my dad and his affair partner wife's bosses about their affair? I, 20 male, saw my dad and his wife, aka the woman who helped break up my parents' marriage, for the first time in a few years the other weekend. This all comes back to something that happened 8 years ago. I was 12. I knew my dad had cheated on mom. They were divorcing at the time and I was at dad's house. He was already living with his affair partner and they left me in the same room as their phones, so I opened up their work contacts and I texted their bosses about the affair, saying a lot of not so great things about them both. My dad's wife found out about it first and she freaked out. She was screaming and asking WTF I did and called me a little shit. I laughed in her face pretty much, and when dad realized, he was more calm but asked me why I'd do something like that. I said something like actions have consequences and how he used to tell me that all the time. It was this big issue for over a year. I refused to apologize for it and so they stopped letting me come over because I used to gloat that there was nobody I wouldn't tell. I saw my dad a couple of times after that, but it was easily 4 years since I saw dad last before the other weekend. It came up during dinner. My dad's wife brought it up and she said I ruined their reputations and they had never recovered from it, so I owed them a huge apology. She said I could have cost them everything, and what did I expect them to do? I told her she didn't want me to answer that because my opinion of them wasn't very high. I refused to apologize and she tried to start a fight, but I ignored her. My grandparents told her to quiet down, but she was sulking and making it all about her and dad. She tried to demand an apology again after an hour and my grandparents asked her and dad to leave. My grandparents said they regretted inviting them. Most of my aunts and uncles found it funny, and one of my uncles even told me Dad and his wife have cheated on each other at least 3 times, which made me so happy. Apparently they're sensitive about it, which is why she shut up when I told her she didn't want to know what I'd expect them to do. But then one of my aunts was like I should have apologized for the sake of the time and place that was in it. She told me what I did was too much and I should realize that involving myself like that was wrong. I don't regret it and I'm not sorry, so no apology I feel is warranted. But for the sake of curiosity, am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for refusing to be a stepfather to my fiancé's children? This is a throwaway account. My daughter made it for me because she's into the whole Reddit advice thing and recommended it to me. We're also not in the US. I'm a 47-year-old male with 2 children, 1 son, Jack, 20, and 1 daughter, Ella, 13, from my late wife. My wife died while giving birth to our daughter due to some complications during the process. Jack was 7 when my daughter was born, and I immediately had him in therapy to help with the grief of losing his mother because I didn't want him to blame his sister. It worked very well because my son loves his baby sister to bits and has never, not even in an argument, held my wife's death over her. Before I started dating, I asked my children if they were okay with it. I gave them as much time as they wanted to think about it with no pressure. They said they were okay with it after having secret meetings in their rooms and making little plans and stuff, which I thought was very cute. Now on to the current issue. I've been with my fiancé for 3 years total, engaged for 6 months. She moved into my house after I proposed with her 2 children, a boy, 17, and a girl, 14, because it was much bigger and had more room. As the relationship got serious, I suggested we sit down and ask the children if they wanted a step-parent or just a parent-spouse type relationship going forward. Both set of children emphasized on the parent-spouse relationship, which me and fiancé respected. Me and my fiancé also decided that we would be taking care of our respective children, financially, socially, etc. This didn't mean not helping each other occasionally, but we were each responsible for our own children. We both didn't want more children, and I got a vasectomy to prevent any accidental pregnancies. This worked okay for the first few months of us living together. My fiancé was responsible for the food, laundry, school, etc. of her children, while I was responsible for the same for my children. My fiancé has a 9-to-5 job, while I run my own business, so I do often have more free time as compared to her. The main issues started on Jack's 20th birthday, which was a month ago. I got him a brand new car of his choice with modification and stuff. He was stuck having to drive his sister to ballet practice, but he sucked it up for his dream car. Everything was okay at the birthday dinner, but later when it was just me and my fiancé in our bedroom, she said we needed to talk. Apparently her children want me to be their stepfather now because they've seen how much I love my own children. They want to join me, my children, on the trips we take around the world, and they want to get cool gifts too. Now I would have been okay with this, but the way she worded it just rubbed me the wrong way. She was only talking about the trips and the gifts, nothing more. She didn't say anything about getting to know each other better. Just trips and gifts. Now the trips I take with my kids are to visit their maternal family around the world. They live in 3 countries, and I've always made sure that my children have had a close relationship with all of them. As for the gifts, my children mostly only get gifts on birthdays, Christmas, or if they've achieved one of the goals set for them in school or extracurriculars. Like when Ella won a ballet competition last year and I got her a new phone, stuff like that. I told my fiancé flat out that it looked like her children only wanted me as a stepfather to get gifts and be invited on trips. I said while I understood they were children, it was her job to correct them and tell them that forming relationships just to use people isn't a nice thing to do. I would have been happy to form a relationship with them, but the fact that their motives was only expensive gifts was absolutely disgusting, especially since she was encouraging it. She tried backtracking by saying that they are children and young and how they didn't know better. She also tried using how she doesn't make as much as me and can't spoil them like I can to guilt me. But I wouldn't budge, because in my opinion, she's the one that's supposed to tell them the better. She's supposed to teach them how wrong this mindset is. Besides, we had a prior agreement. My fiancé has tried bringing this up again, but I refuse to change my mind. I've also talked to my children, who have said that they would not really be happy if fiancé's children called me dad. So that's only made me a little more firm in my decision. My children have always come first to me and always will. However, with how pushy my fiancé is being, I've started to doubt if maybe I'm the one in the wrong and being stubborn for no reason. So random people on the internet, Aita for refusing to be a stepfather to my fiancé's children.
My fiancé left me. I'm in a complicated situation with my ex that involves emotions, finances, and animals, and I'm really not sure what to do. We were together for 7 years. There were a lot of good times but also a lot of issues. I always felt something was missing in our sex life, and we tried different things to fix it. Things really started to change when she decided to start stripping. She has a horticulture degree but could not find any good paying jobs. A friend she met through her aerial studio was a stripper and told her how great the money was. She asked if I would be okay with her doing it. I thought it was kind of hot and also saw potential for her to make good money, so I said yes. Sex got a little better for a while after that. Eventually, I realized stripping was not a job she could stay in long term. Around that time, I had just started a new job, and it was just us, 2 cats, and a dog we raised together. We were tired of our landlord and started looking for a house to buy. We put in a bunch of offers and lost out, but eventually found a place that she fell in love with. I used my bonus and savings to buy it. About a year and a half later, our dog was diagnosed with cancer, and we had to put him down. It was heartbreaking. After that, I quit smoking weed and started realizing I needed to help her move on from stripping because she was not taking any steps to do that herself. We then ended up with more animals. We adopted a dog from a kill shelter, and she found another dog on the street that we named Opal. Her parents also gave her a bunny. I started learning how to buy businesses so we could find one that matched her skills. We put in a few offers but got outbid. I eventually decided to propose to her because I loved her deeply. I flew her family and friends out, and it was an emotional, beautiful proposal that still makes me cry to think about. Earlier that day, one of my best friends asked me why I was proposing, and I said because it feels about time, which I now realize was not the best reason. She had medical issues throughout our relationship, so I decided to get her on my health insurance. I had built up assets and savings, and to protect them, I created a prenup that covered everything except the house, which we agreed would be split 50-50 because she contributed to renovations. We signed it and got a domestic partnership so I could add her to my insurance. Then I decided to start coding an app instead of buying a business. She came up with an idea that I thought was solid, so I coded it over the course of a year. During this whole time, we rarely went on dates or did anything fun together, which I regret. Our relationship became all about work. We had a lot of arguments, but I thought that was just part of a long-term relationship. I had always wanted an open relationship because our sex life felt routine. In the 7th year, after I worked on my anger issues, she agreed to open things up, but it started when she met a guy at the club who wanted a threesome. I agreed, since I had done a threesome before. She later said she wanted to hook up with him first to get him on the hook, and I told her that was basically an open relationship. We set some rules and agreed either of us could end it at any time. Soon after, I saw a text from her to a friend that said, "I don't want him to close the relationship. I finally get to fuck a hot guy." That hit me hard. I stayed calm and told her that attraction is important in a relationship, and if she was not attracted to me, we should talk about ending it. Her friend told her she should think about her values and what she really wants. My friends told me to end it after everything I had done for her. She came back and said our values did not align and that we should break up. I agreed. Before she moved out, I had her sign a contract lowering her house equity from 50% to 40%. She moved out within 2 weeks. We said we would stay friends with benefits, maybe still do the threesome we talked about, and at least stay friends unless she started to be in a relationship. She took the cats, and I kept the dogs. After she left, it was too much for me to care for both dogs alone, so I decided to rehome Opal, the dog she found on the street. She got angry at me for that and gave me a judgmental look, like I was a bad person for giving her up, even though she did not help much with the dogs when we were together. She had put about $26,000 into renovations, and I have paid $3,100 a month in pity for 3 years, plus an extra $200 toward principal each month along with the $40K in down payment and renovations I put in. She never paid rent but covered some utilities and other bills, although I often paid part of those too. When we separated, the home appraisal showed about $70,000 in equity. She demanded 40%, which is $28,000. If I sold the house, she would only get around $10,000 to $12,000, so paying her $28,000 could destroy me financially. I offered her $12,000 total for all shared investments, including the house, crypto, and metals. She called me evil, accused me of being manipulative, and compared me to a guy she knew who gave his ex the entire house because his dad said he could make it back. 'Cause he was in tech like I am. Her parents told me they would not support her asking for something unfair but later helped formulate a written request for her $28,000 demand. She later lowered it to $18,000 after I explained how unreasonable it was. What made things worse was that during the early stages of the breakup, I told her some things about my sex life that I probably should not have, and she retaliated by telling me she slept with her new guy 4 times in one night, that he licked her ear and she liked it, even though she always told me she hated that. Those things destroyed my confidence, sleep, and peace of mind. I still love her and cannot stop thinking about her, but I know it might be better to find someone without so many medical issues or who isn't stripping. Here are my questions. 1. Is it wrong that I still want her back after everything? 2. Should I ever take her back if she changes, and if so, what would need to change? 3. Should I pay her what she is asking for the house or hold my ground? 4. Should I feel bad about rehoming Opal? 5. Am I being an asshole?
Am I the a-hole for not wanting additional chores after moving in with my 19 female dad and stepmom? Hey, am I the a-hole? I'm 19 female and in school. I go to college in the city I grew up in and am getting my bachelor's, but I live at home to save money. My parents aren't together and had me pretty young, so they didn't really have anything saved for me, so I have a smattering of scholarships, and since I don't need to pay rent or anything like that, no loans. I was always week on week off with my parents and have continued that. A few weeks ago my mom and stepdad, 35F and 40M, told me they were finally expecting a baby after years of trying. I was so happy for them until they told me I couldn't keep living there as they need to focus on the baby and there wouldn't be enough room. They do have enough room, but I know having a baby is a lot and it's my stepdad's first baby. Plus I don't know how to explain it, but they were nice when they asked. It wasn't like get the F out, we're replacing you. I love them both and want them to have time for themselves and their baby, so I asked my dad, 35 male, he told me I could of course live there full time. I guess he didn't talk to my stepmom, 42 female, about that lol because when I showed up she was pretty unhappy. They have 2 kids of their own, 8 and 6, and she has 2 kids, 14 male and 16 female, and still in high school. I share a room with her daughter when I stay there, but her kids don't see their dad, so they're always there. I've always gotten along with everyone and consider her kids my siblings, like if I'm not in school or working I'll go to their sports games or take them to shows or movies or out to eat and pay for it. They're really sweet but pretty shy. So just for background. And the younger ones are little, I don't do much with them because they're barely even people so far lol. But yeah, my stepmom wants me to either start paying rent, $500 a month, or take on a bunch of additional chores. For the record, I do chores of course, I always have, but she wants me to do things like driving all 4 kids to and from school so they don't have to take the bus, make their lunches, and help them with homework, in addition to my existing chores of cleaning all the bathrooms and doing the yard work. I asked if we could compromise and I could take the older ones to school in the morning on my way to class. Their school is kind of on my way to my school, while the little kids' school will add 40 minutes of driving, and help them with homework, but I can't pick them up after school because I'd have to leave my school to do that and then come back for my labs and study groups. Right now I stay on campus basically from 8 to 6, but she wants me to leave in the middle of my day, and on some days I even have class at that time, to pick them up and bring them home. And making lunches for 4 picky kids plus my dad and stepmom just sounds like a lot on top of school, and I also work 35 hours a week, mostly on weekends granted. My dad thinks it's a good compromise, but my stepmom doesn't and won't stop being mean to me. Or telling me that she has had an emergency and I need to drop everything and pick up the kids when the emergency is that she felt like going to a networking happy house, what happened yesterday. I feel like such a nuisance, but I know I'm saving money living here. I don't want to tell my mom any of this and stress her out. My stepmom keeps saying it's my mom's fault, but when she had my younger sibs, I only came over every other weekend to give them space to be a new family because it's what she wanted. I just feel like none of this is fair, but also like I'm the biggest burden in the world. My dad says I don't have to pay rent or do the additional chores, but I don't want to cause issues in their marriage. Aita for just doing some of the new chores my stepmom wants me to? Edit, I put it in a comment, but I'm really sorry. I'm sorry I was so argumentative last night. I haven't been sleeping well and have been so stressed out and sad. I got some sleep and talked to Dad, and he's going to handle my stepmom. Luckily they're not legally married. He let her move in when she got pregnant because she was losing her place, and they had a ceremony in our backyard, but it's not legal. He did promise me he wouldn't kick her older kids out because they did nothing wrong, but he's been done with her behavior all summer and even before that. If I'm honest about my mom, it was always us, and then my stepdad came and he was so nice to me compared to my stepmom. They asked if I could spend more time at my dad's for a few months after their baby was born because they know I hate babies, and I took that as an eviction. And moved out immediately. I'm going to talk to my mom today. I've been kind of avoiding her and not going over there every other weekend like she wants because I think I'm being immature about the baby. Basically, in short, last night I was hungry, tired, and needed to touch some grass, and I'm very sorry I was so bitchy to everyone. I am thankful for all of your advice, even if it was hard to hear, but I need to be a big girl and talk to my mom. Update. Basically, I'm 19 and in school. My mom and stepdad are finally having a baby. When my dad and stepmom had their kids, I lived with my mom and stepdad. I was 50-50 with my parents before this, but moved in with my dad full-time, and it pissed my stepmom off. She has 2 kids with my dad. They are not legally married, and 2 teenagers, one of whom 16 female I share a room with here. Neither of their dads are in their lives. My stepmom either wants me to do an excessive amount of chores or pay $500 rent to live here. I refused to do either, and my dad backed me up. So my dad and stepmom got into a huge fight over this. It started because my stepsister, who I've always been nice and welcoming to, threw a fit to her mom about sharing a room with me. Please remember that this has always been my room. She moved in a few years ago and I never threw a fit. But she was just yelling at me and her mom was backing her up. I went to leave and my stepmom took my car keys and told me I needed to get my stuff out of the bedroom and stay in the basement. I laughed in her face and told my dad what happened. I think he finally hit his limit after everything with her and told her she needed to leave. She left to stay with a friend and has been there this whole past few days, but it's been so hard because now my dad and I have to pick up all her slack for the kids. He wasn't going to kick any kids out but made it clear to my stepsister that I would not be moving my stuff to an unfinished basement. I was pretty uncomfortable and went to see my mom. I told mom everything and she was absolutely devastated that I had kept it all from her. I feel bad. I know it was just an excuse for me to not stress her out while she was pregnant, and I think it was more so I was mad at her. Which I know is immature. She said she knew I really can't stand babies and didn't think I'd completely move out full-time with my dad, just spend more time there. I actually feel really bad. My parents don't get along and I've always treated them more like friends than people who I could lean on for support, and I think that was wrong. After I told her everything, my mom actually called my dad for the first time in years. It was crazy. She apologized to him. And then he said she shouldn't apologize. I thought I was living in the twilight zone. My stepsister went to my stepmom's friend's house to live, but my stepbrother, who is nice to me, wants to stay and there's no room for the little ones at that house. And my stepmom told my dad to figure it out. I get why she's mad, but they're still her kids. My mom and stepdad said I'm not their parent and told my dad to ask them for help if he's going to ask me. When they used to have me babysit the little ones, I'd bring them to my mom so she could help me so they know her. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do see my parents different now. Like I've always thought I was out for myself and I'd need to figure things out. Like when I got a speeding ticket I found and paid for a lawyer. But then they found out and were mad I didn't ask for help. I think I'm going to work on thinking of them as support and people who are there to help me and not people I owe things to. Sorry, this don't a great update, but I wanted to get that off my chest.
I, 28 male, want a divorce from my wife, 27 female, but everyone want me to forgive her throwaway for obvious reasons explained below. Me and my wife has been married for 3 years. First let me say my wife is not struggling with any issues that I am aware of, and we have known each other since grade school. We literally know everything about each other and families. About 2 months ago, I came home and found my wife and 6-month-old daughter on the couch. My wife was asleep and my daughter next to her. The moment I went in to greet them, I smelled my daughter immediately. She needed a diaper change. I didn't know how long it has been since her last diaper change. I took my daughter from the couch to go and change her diaper. As I didn't want to wake up my wife doesn't sleep during the day, so I know that if I find my wife sleeping during the day or any time before 9 p.m., she had a hectic day and is just drained. I walked into my daughter's room and placed her on the changing table and started to change her diaper. Not even 2 minutes later my wife walked into the room, and as I greeted her, she looked at me and looked down to my daughter on the changing table and went into a rage and started to attack me. I was stunned for like a second, and instinct kicked in, and I leaned over my daughter to protect her. My wife was shouting while hitting me, how could I, over and over again, and that I'm a monster. I had no idea at the time what she was talking about, and the morning I left everything was as good as it could be. She then ran out the room. Like 5 minutes later, 3 police officers had me in handcuffs, and my wife going crazy that she caught me essaying my daughter. I was speechless at that moment and couldn't believe what she was saying. I asked her what she was talking about. All she kept saying is that she saw me doing it. I was arrested and released the next day when the police had a look at the camera footage in my daughter's room, clearly seeing that I was just busy changing her diaper and nothing happened. There is not evidence that to support my wife's claims she attacked me without provocation. I want a divorce as I can't believe she would even think that I would do something like that. I haven't spoken to her since I got released, and my phone has been blowing up with calls and text with her apologies. I honestly don't care about that. The moment she said those words to the police, that I say my daughter, it was like all the love I had for he just left me, and all I feel is a void inside of me at the moment, nothing else. I had her served with divorce papers a week ago, and now everyone is constantly harassing me from my family, her family, our friend to talk to her and try counseling to sort this out. She can get counseling if she want, but I will not be involved. I am young for full custody of my daughter. My lawyer has informed me that I will most probably get full custody of my daughter due to my wife's violent outburst on camera, and that I had to shield her with my body and the false claims laid against me, noting her mental state. Everyone is saying I'm taking things too far by divorcing her and trying to take my daughter from her, but nobody can give me a reason as to why she did what she did. She herself in the 374 message hasn't given me an explanation as well, just constant sorry, and we can go for marriage counseling and individual counseling. Again, I don't care, she can go by herself. I'm just worn down at the moment as the gravity of everything is hitting me. What should I do?
Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe.